Welcome to Conversation about Appointments in the Next Administration. My name is Spencer Overton, and I'm the president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, which is America's Black think tank. The Joint Center is working with 45 other Black organizations and an advisory board of experts with past transition and presidential personnel experience on a Black talent initiative. Our mission is to identify appointee positions in the incoming presidential administration that are important to Black communities, identify strong African-American candidates for each position who have a commitment to racial equity, and submit the names and basic information of these candidates to the Biden-Harris transition team for consideration. We've enjoyed a good working relationship with the Biden-Harris team, and we're working hard to ensure that they fulfill their commitment to Black voters with regard to both personnel and policy. Now today, I'm excited for us to partner with members of the Congressional Black Caucus to provide best practices for potential candidates. Over the past 2 years, we've enjoyed a wonderful relationship with CBC Chair Karen Bass, and we appreciate her leadership and her many contributions. We congratulate CBC Chair-elect Joyce Beatty. She's been a big supporter of the Joint Center, and we look forward to working with her over the next 2 years on the transition, on the economic recovery in Black communities in the wake of the pandemic, and many other critical issues. I also want to congratulate and introduce our moderator, Congressman Steve Horsford. In 2012, Congressman Horsford won the newly created 4th Congressional District and became the first ever African-American to represent Nevada in Congress. I also want to congratulate him on his recent election to be first vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. He has been a joy to work with. He's incredibly committed, serious about the business. He gets things done. I know that he's doing that with regard to the transition and leading the transition effort for the CBC. And he will continue to do that as first vice chair of the CBC in the next Congress. Congressman Horsford, welcome and thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Spencer Overton, and to the rest of the Black Talent Initiative team. Thank you for your partnership and for inviting me and my colleagues for this very important conversation today. For months, the Black Talent Initiative has been working around the clock to collect resumes of qualified African Americans for positions within the incoming Biden-Harris administration. And it's no secret that members of the Congressional Black Caucus and Black Americans throughout this country were instrumental in delivering a victory for President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. So I'm honored to serve as the chair for the first 100 days transition with the Congressional Black Caucus task force that was formed by our chair, Congresswoman Karen Bass, and to work with my colleagues to make sure that we are at the table as these important decisions are being made, not just around personnel, which is policy, but also on our policy recommendations for the next administration. We are confident that the incoming administration will recognize and reflect the Black community's contributions that were a result of this historic election and our nation as a whole. Now, in order for this to occur, we must ensure that African Americans are able to serve at the highest levels in our federal government, and in fact, throughout federal service at every level. That's why we are so excited to have 2 of our colleagues from the 59 members that serve in the Congressional Black Caucus, Representative Lauren Underwood from the 14th Congressional District of Illinois, and Representative Colin Allred from the 32nd District of Texas to join us this afternoon. Both of these colleagues, their esteemed colleagues, have made history working in the President Obama administration. Congresswoman Underwood previously served as a senior advisor at the United States Department of Health and Human Services, where she worked to implement the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, something that tens of millions of Americans rely on today. And under Congressman Allred, he worked as a special assistant in the Department of Housing and Urban Development's Office of General Counsel. So they know from the inside how federal service works, the opportunities, and we thought it would be a great opportunity today to really learn from them how they pursued that opportunity and to hopefully share that so that it's an example for others. So let's get right into it and have a good conversation with our colleagues today. So Congresswoman Underwood, how did you find out about your position within the Obama administration? What was the path and the process that you took? And what was kind of the representation of African Americans within the department that you previously worked in?
Well, thank you, Stephen. When I was in college, I actually was a Congressional Black Caucus Foundation intern for Senator Obama. And so that's really where all of this started for me. My journey to the administration began with relationships. And so when President Obama was sworn in, I thought that I was going to be able to join the administration, really like the kind of day one team at HHS because of some connections that I had with nominee Senator Daschle. Now, Senator Daschle did not end up becoming the HHS secretary. And so I took a career job at HHS working to implement the Affordable Care Act. And I did that job. It was my dream job for 4.5 years. And during that time, I had an opportunity to get to know all of the senior leaders at the department, all of them. And it was a unique position. They knew me, I knew them. And so when a position opened up at ASPR, the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, during the early days of the domestic Ebola response, I got a phone call saying that the director, she's the Assistant Secretary, needed a special assistant. Would I be interested in helping with the Ebola response? And so in a flurry of interviews over probably 6 days, I had maybe 10 interviews, something like that, and ended up accepting the position and joining that team. And we did Ebola, we did Zika, we did Flint, the Flint water crisis, and then ended up getting promoted to senior advisor in that role and staying until the final day of the Obama administration. In terms of other African Americans within the organization, there were, but ASPR, so this is a Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, really only had 2 political appointments for that agency, the Assistant Secretary and me. And so there were many African Americans in career roles or contractor roles, federal contractors, but we were the only 2 appointees. And the Assistant Secretary was obviously a Senate confirmed position, and I was a Schedule C. So within HHS, obviously very diverse, lots of folks from all types of backgrounds on both sides, political and career. And it was a wonderful place to work. Thank you.
Well, and you contributed a great deal in that role, and obviously now have gone on to become a member of Congress. And talk about also the fact that, you know, based on your experience with the Congressional Black Caucus, I believe it was the Institute, right?
The foundation. I was an intern. Mm-hmm. And so the CBC Foundation has an intern program basically every semester for college students or recent graduates from our communities. And so because we had a senator from our state, Senator Obama was from anywhere in Illinois. And so I applied and was grateful to receive that internship. Now, this is a paid internship, y'all, in 2006, if you can believe it, with free housing. So, you know, I was in there, okay? And the relationships from that internship, both professionally in the office, those folks, we are still in touch. They are great friends. His staffers are all over the country now. Some in elected office themselves. Some, the Pod Save America guys, knew them in 2006, right? Like, these folks have been with Obama for a long time. And then, you know, the other interns, some are my very best friends in life, colleagues, whatever. So highly recommend, if you're interested in joining at the entry level, an internship is a great place to start. You can learn more about the CBC Foundation at cbcfinc.org. And there's all the info about the internships. There are like topical internships and then general ones. depending on what you want to do. But you can work for us. And I think you should want to work for us because it's going to be a great place to work in 2021.
Well, we're going to share more information about those opportunities at every level of government. Let me turn to Congressman Allred, and if you could please share your experience, kind of how you identified your opportunity within the Obama administration. What was your path and process, and what was the representation of African Americans in the department that you ended up working in?
Yeah, well, like Lauren, I started off as an intern. I interned in the Office of White House Counsel, and I found out about that internship from my Black Law Students Association at Berkeley, at Cal Berkeley, where I was going to law school. I was a little bit older law student. I played in the NFL, and I'd had a career, and I wanted to get to work. And so I applied for this internship at White House Counsel. I got to work under Kathy Rumler, who was then the White House Counsel. I got to be very good friends with many of the attorneys there. And they asked me to do another job at DOJ, which was at Southern District of Maryland, the U.S. Attorney's Office there under a guy named Rod Rosenstein, who has since become famous for other reasons. And then I was at a law firm at Perkins Coie doing voting rights litigation, and got a call from a guy who I'd worked with in the White House who asked me to go to HUD and to be a special assistant there and to help them kind of plug some of the gaps that they had in their system. And so that's how I ended up at HUD as an appointee. And just like Lauren, it was really very quick. I had a lot of interviews in a short space of time. Did a little bit of negotiating on my salary, which you should absolutely do. Always. Don't let them lowball you. You know your worth, right? And then when I got to HUD, and HUD is a little bit different from some of the agencies. There are a lot of Black folks at HUD, and this has historically been the case. And there were a lot of Black career folks there who have all the institutional memory, who know everything about the building. But among the appointees, we had a lot of Black appointees as well. And some of my best friends to this day, I met there. They've gone on, many of us, to do incredible things. Maya Rupert, who was the campaign manager for Julian Castro, she's one of my best friends, met her there. Donald Sherman, who's at Crew now, and who knows what else he's going to do. Met him there. We became great friends there. It was a very supportive group, and we worked closely together. We had lunches for all the Black appointees, and it was great to be in a room with so many other Black folks who were in these important roles and who had these important jobs. So I felt very supported at HUD. I know that's not the experience at every agency, and I'll say that, but it was great for me.
Great. So let's talk about what it meant for you to leave. Colin, you were in Texas, I assume, or maybe California in law school. So did you live in Washington prior to applying for your position? Do you have to be based in DC, or did you see other people working in other areas? Again, just so that we can demystify what federal service means for people who may not know. And also, how would you rate your overall experience working within the administration and federal service? What did you get out of it from a sense of personal fulfillment and your career goals? Lauren?
Well, while I was in law school, I was in California when I applied, and then I came out to DC. Unfortunately, unlike Lauren, it was not a paid internship. I was an NFL player, so I was able to handle that, but we should definitely have as many paid internships as possible, and that's something that I'm very passionate about. And so, you just kind of figure it out. And I didn't know anything about Washington, D.C. I had been there, I think, just to play the Redskins. I don't think I'd ever been there for any other reason. So I found an apartment online. I'd never seen it in person. It turned out not to be a great place, to be honest with you, Stephen. But the most incredible thing for me was walking in the first day into the White House, into the Obama White House, and just that feeling that you got of incredible pride. And I do remember walking out of the gates one day onto Pennsylvania Avenue, and there was a Black family sitting outside with some young kids. And one of the kids was like, "Oh, you work in there?" And I said, yeah, I work in there, and you can too. And that's this kind of thing that that experience is just so incredible, and it is our house. Not only did we help build it, of course, but it's the house of the people, and it belongs to all of us, and we should certainly be in there in important roles. And I'm sure Lauren feels the same way. Working in government, working in an administration is incredibly rewarding, because every single day you are where the rubber meets the road. You are figuring out, at HUD, how to keep a roof over someone's head, how to have someone pursue the goal of home ownership for the first time. And the policies that you are making are so impactful on people's lives. And you know that because you have the numbers right in front of you. You have the staff around you to make it happen. And it's not, in the legislature, we are talking a lot about big structural things. We're setting up programs. We're setting up funding for programs. In the administration, you are making those programs work. You are applying them. You're helping people. And so it's incredibly rewarding. And I think that anyone who wants to serve should pursue this, because you will be so proud of the work you do. Your work will be so important. And like I said, it's our house, it's our government. President Obama used to always tell us, government is not them, it's us. And if you want to change it, if you want to make it better, get involved in it.
So Lauren, where did you live? How did you find your way? Had you been exposed to Washington, and what was that feeling like? What were some of the things that you did? What was in your function, in your position? If you can explain that a little bit, kind of some of the areas that you worked on specifically around healthcare.
Sure. So I lived in Washington because, as I described, I was a career federal employee before I joined the administration. So I literally worked in the same building on the same floor, just changed some paperwork and got a new office around the corner. But everything about my job changed. So as a career employee, I was working to implement the Affordable Care Act. We extended healthcare coverage to 23 million Americans for the first time. And it was very exciting. But in the administration, we were responding to natural disasters, emerging infectious diseases, working on bioterrorism threats like smallpox and anthrax, and then like huge global health crises like Ebola, and working with our international partners to contain the disease and then ultimately do the whole lessons learned process. We were working on developing an Ebola vaccine, new treatments. So all the things that we talk about with COVID-19 and this pandemic, it was our agency that had been doing the work, right? So I have some very strong feelings about the pandemic and the pandemic response, because I know these people. I know the plans we left for the Trump administration. Why? Because I was involved in writing the memo. You know what I mean? And so like that kind of thing, the front row seat in protecting the American people and our nation from any kind of public health emergency or disaster. That's what we did. And so there was a lot of travel involved when we were doing the Flint water crisis. I went to Flint every week for a year. And we were on the ground working with their mayor, their city council, their health department, the people in the community, working to improve their healthcare systems to help this community recover. And then an election happened. And so we weren't able to quite finish the job. And that's something that still, hurts my heart, because we've seen what's happened in those intervening 4 years, which is not a lot. And so, I am someone that's very mission driven. And I am someone that knows that as a registered nurse, it is my mission to help improve the health and well-being of the American people. I did it in the federal government and the executive branch as an appointee under the Obama administration. I'm doing it from the United States Congress as an elected representative from my community in Illinois. And, we can make a difference everywhere, anywhere. We just have to be committed to doing the work. And that's really what I want to share with people. This is a great opportunity to serve our country, to right the ship, and to do it from a lens of justice and equity and all these things that we believe. But it's not the only place to be able to do this important work. And so let the work guide you, right? Don't chase a title, don't chase a position, follow the work. Because you'll be able to be impactful, you'll get recognition, you'll get all the opportunities in the world.
That's very good advice, and one that I hope that everyone watching will take to heart. So maybe to conclude this portion of our questions with the members of Congress who have previously served in the federal government at different capacity, Congresswoman Underwood in the Department of Health and Human Services and Congressman Allred in the Department of Housing and Urban Development. What is the one thing, Lauren, that you would tell young professionals to help encourage them to apply for positions within the incoming administration? Many individuals don't know where to start. So what would you recommend to them in that process?
Yes, you have to be persistent and aggressive. So apply over and over and over and over. Every link you find, fill it out, put as much effort into it the most recent time as you did the very first time, put your best self forward and get to know people. These are not transactional relationships. These are real relationships, because if you get the job, you will have to work with them very closely. It's going to be extremely intense, extremely difficult. These are not like fluff jobs. They are fun jobs, but these are like 60, 80 hour a week jobs, okay? These are jobs where, you may get to go cool places and be in the room for events and at the table where it happens and all these different things. But then you're gonna be up and you're gonna be responding to emails maybe in the middle of the night and time away from your family and whatever, because our country needs your expertise. And so you have to come in eyes wide open about that. I would just say the last piece of advice is make sure that you are being real, right? It just gets so competitive, and people are always trying to sell themselves and one up one another because they want these jobs, they want these positions. You are going to have to be honest and truthful, because the people who weren't, that stuff comes out, right? So you're gonna have to get clearances. You're gonna have to do disclosure forms. You're gonna have to do all of that stuff. So just be honest and straightforward from the beginning. Your reputation and your word is gonna be what gets you the positions and the opportunities, even once you get the job, right? You wanna grow in your job. You wanna have new opportunities. So, just do it with the utmost integrity from the very beginning. Just trust me on this. Some people think that they can sort of like embellish or try to hide some things, and it just all comes out. So just be real from the beginning.
Great advice. Be real, relationships, be aggressive and persistent, because you've got to distinguish yourself. Colin, tell us what one thing you would encourage young professionals to do as they seek opportunities within the new administration, and where you would recommend they start.
Well, I agree with Lauren on everything she said. Hustle, hustle, hustle. Don't try to fake the funk, because there's going to be a full background check done on you, and trust me, they're going to find out. And don't undersell yourself. I mean, this is the thing that I think we do so often. Is you think, well, I'm probably not qualified for that position. You might be, and also you might have the talent to fill that position. So go for the most senior position you think you can. They might offer you something different, but don't be afraid to put yourself forward for something that you might not think you are classically prepared for or have every single box checked for. Because in these jobs, as Lauren said, no one really knows how to do some of these jobs. So the idea is that you're going to grow into the role, and they want to see that you have the potential, the work ethic to be able to take whatever your talents are and apply them to this job, particularly in the beginning of an administration where we're going to be digging out of a hole that this administration has caused in every agency. Every agency is going to be rebuilt. There's no playbook for that. So don't think that you're not qualified for an important position. Be as ambitious as you possibly can. Be honest, hustle, and make sure that you're using all the contacts that you have at your disposal, whether it's your law professors or your people you've worked with, anyone who can vouch for you, who can be a part of your support system. Make sure that they are helping and doing everything they can, having emails sent on your behalf. Come through us and in the CBC. We're here to help you. All of us are proposing folks for the administration. We want to put qualified Black folks in the administration, so reach out to us. But don't undersell yourself. This is something you can do.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Congressman Colin Allred from Texas and Congresswoman Lauren Underwood from Illinois. Both of you have talked a lot about where this starts from the very beginning as interns, developing relationships, putting your best foot forward, not underselling yourself, but also being truthful and expressing what you may not know yet, and definitely to seek out these opportunities. But we're encouraging people to definitely pursue opportunities within federal service. Within the Congressional Black Caucus, our 100 Days Transition Task Force is working directly with the Biden-Harris transition team, and we're so excited to be partnering with Spencer Overton and his team at the Black Talent Initiative. And I want to turn to them to just have Spencer, Glorie, and Tanisha share a little bit about the resources that they have available and to answer some key questions as well. So if you could, Spencer, maybe talk about the types of entry, mid, and junior level roles within the White House or federal agencies that people may be able to apply for or appointed to that do not require Senate confirmation.
Sure. Thank you so much. And Representatives Allred and Underwood, thank you. You were just stellar, just real. Thank you, thank you, thank you for adding so much value. So I'm going to let the experts in terms of Tanisha and Glorie get into the details. I think if there's some important things, it would be this notion of being on various lists, being aggressive, being out there here, getting your information into us. You know, Tanisha and Glorie will talk about that. There are, again, these different positions, whether they're in the White House or whether they're in agencies in terms of Senate confirmed, SES, Schedule C, etc. Tanisha and Glorie will talk about that, and they'll talk about our process. We are here for you. We are behind you. We want to give you everything we can. Recognize that we have finite capacity, but we're here for you, and we want you to be successful. So Tanisha, Glorie, let me turn it over to you. Tanisha and Glorie, extensive experience in terms of White House liaison experience and in the Presidential Personnel Office. I've got great confidence in them. I'm so glad they're leading this effort. Tanisha and Glorie.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much to Congressman Horsford, Congresswoman Underwood, and Congressman Allred for speaking with us today. I am a former Obama appointee. I was a staff assistant in the Office of Presidential Personnel. I was also an associate director in the Office of Public Engagement, and I also served as the special assistant to the Assistant Secretary of International Trade Administration, Department of Commerce.
You just not to call you out, but how'd you do all that? You still look so young.
Oh, listen, started very young, started a little younger than I should have, maybe. Let me just walk through some best practices just to summarize some of the best practices from my experiences as well. I would say if you can try your best to keep your resume in one page or under, especially for junior to mid-level appointees, make sure that your resume is very clear and clean. If you are a subject matter expert or you have some sort of expertise, make sure it's also clear on your resume. Be patient. The process can take a long period of time, but also it can be very quick, right? So just really be patient and yet persistent with the process. I'll say be open, flexible, and willing. Because you never know, right? You may have someone call you and say, hey, we want to send you to Department of Labor, and you've never thought about Department of Labor before. Be open to those kind of opportunities, at least be open to every conversation when they call you in with an opportunity to listen to them out, right? Don't be afraid to take any risks. There may be a role that they may ask you to do, they may propose to you that you've never done before. Most of the staff assistant kind of roles are the roles that you can really learn on the job. So be flexible and again, don't be afraid to take any risks. Leverage your relationships. I just made the connection here with Congresswoman Underwood as a former CBCF intern. I was also a CBCF intern. I also interned with Congressman Allred at summer 2013. We were summer White House interns together. So don't be afraid to really leverage your relationships, especially during this process, this time. Anyone that you know, make sure that you really are reaching out to them, and also bring others with you. This one thing that we should make sure that you're doing is, as the doors are being opened for you, make sure that you're also opening the doors for others. And then the last thing I would say is show up, show out, and don't be afraid to take up the space that you're in. So those are some of my quote unquote highlighted best practices, and I'm going to turn it over to Tanisha to wrap us up.
Hello, hello. So I am Tanisha Humphrey, a co-director with Glorie on this project. In 2012, I ran an appointments project working with LGBTQ folks, and through that project, so a project very similar to this one, I was actually appointed myself and joined the Department of Labor as a Deputy White House liaison and an advisor to the Secretary of Labor, Tom Perez, on diversity, inclusion, and innovation. Since then, I've been working as an organizer throughout the country, still with that same focus on diversity and inclusion, particularly young people, women, and people of color, passionate about bringing in communities and making sure that folks are represented in the halls of power. I think whenever people think about the appointments process and getting appointed, we first think about these really senior roles. You know, I often watch the Senate confirmation process, sort of biting my nails. I'm really riveted by that process. But even the most senior person is going to need advisors and assistants. And we heard Representatives Allred and Underwood talk about how significant these special assistant roles can be. Like Representative Allred mentioned, these positions are incredibly rewarding. This is an opportunity to bring about change and to serve your community in a real and significant way. And so I really recommend, if you have even the slightest interest, to go ahead and apply and try to get appointed. And there are many diverse ways to get appointed. We've heard 2 perspectives today, 3 if you count mine, through a process like this one. So for the Black Talent Initiative, our role is to collect resumes, to collect folks who are interested in getting appointed, and then to recommend those folks to the Biden-Harris team. For this type of process, patience is key. Unfortunately, it has been referred to as like a black box process, but please know that there are real people on the receiving end of these forms that you're submitting, people like me, people like Glorie, who are going to take the time to review your resume, take a look at what you've submitted. And we appreciate your patience as we look for the right time or the right position that you could be a fit for. So we really encourage you to apply to the Black Talent Initiative. We'll make sure that you have a link to apply. And always, always feel free to reach out at bti@jointcenter.org. So that's bti@jointcenter.org. Thank you so much to all of the members of Congress who joined us today, who shared your experiences, and to Spencer for bringing us all together. It's been so amazing to hear from you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say incredibly impressed, Tanisha, Glorie. It's been phenomenal getting to know you and working with you. And as you just said, Tanisha, there are real people behind this process. I want to commend the Black Talent Initiative through the Joint Center and the work, Spencer, that you are leading, and the other 45 organizations that are partnering to help identify these opportunities. And this is our attempt as the Congressional Black Caucus and our 100 Days Task Force for the Biden-Harris transition, working with the Black Talent Initiative to, talk about this in real terms with real people who have lived this experience, including current members of Congress who served in federal service and people who are serving every single day. And I'll just say in closing that, while I never worked formally in federal service, although I am now an employee as a member of Congress, I started as an intern as well in the Nevada legislature. And I didn't know anything about anything when I started my internship, let alone the fact that I would ultimately go into serving in the state Senate, or as the first African-American as the state Senate Majority Leader, and now to have the honor to serve in the House of Representatives. So you never know where it's going to start, but take that initiative, believe in yourself, never burn a bridge. Relationships are so incredibly important. And trust in yourself, believe in yourself, bet on yourself. I'm from Vegas. I don't bet, I'm not a big gambler, but I do believe on betting on yourself and on your future. You're worth it, and your country needs you. So consider an opportunity to serve in the Biden-Harris administration in federal service, because in the end, you're helping all of us serve the constituents of this great country. So with that, Spencer, I'd love to say thank you. I know we've probably gone over a little bit of time, but this has been phenomenal, and I hope we can do it again very soon.
Thanks all.